Good morning, Wednesday morning. Here I am with Norma Talks. I was sitting here thinking how this particular show, it was my first one I began, and the lockdowns had begun. So I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't have people come in. I didn't have any classes, and I was wondering what to do. And then I remembered that I used to I had a no, actually I remember that I had a YouTube channel that I created because I used to watch movies and I would do movie reviews. And so I began doing this talk so that I could still speak, you might say, my metaphysical knowledge, my metaphysical awareness. And of course, since then, now we're up to 3 different shows, because then I began to do a Sunday thought, because I missed not having a place to go speak at on Sundays. And then, of course, I was missing doing prayers. So I started mental mind treatment. So as I sit here, I'm thinking that Christmas is only 2.5 weeks away. And I remember when I used to be so busy at this time of the year. I was working, I had kids, there was Christmas, and it was busy, 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 busy. And so it's very interesting now when you're at my stage of life, when there's not much happening or not much going on, that you almost could miss Christmas, like it's just another time period. But I got thinking about it as how much preparation I had to do, and how much time would go by as I ran around. There not only were there presents for people and situations and planning and meetings of where we were going to go and what we were going to do. Christmas was a very busy time, and it took a lot of planning. Now, I'm a planner, actually. I'm fairly good at planning things. In fact, people used to look to me for planning, which helped in the years when I ran a large psychic fairs here in Canada, the West Coast area, mainly from Alberta and BC. But over the years, it was like you learn how to do that, and then all of a sudden life changes. Well, as we know, when lockdowns happened, much changed. Many things changed. So I began to think about, with Christmas coming along, and how and what I could say. So it's about planning, and not everybody knows how to plan. Nobody, it's like, I didn't make big things. I was all up in here. It's like, what was going to happen? How was this going to happen? Just like I've done workshops, just like I do when I'm planning going on a trip, I make a plan. And so it's the plan is where you are, but it has a point where you're going to end up. What is the plan? What is the end result you want? The end result becomes the goal. And when you have a goal in the direction of where you want to go, whether it is your Christmas dinner, whether it is having to travel to be with family, whatever the goal is, or the end result, you have an ending that sort of accumulate, that everything that's going to go on is going to accumulate into this one element. Once you have that sorted out, it's like the framework is given. Then, of course, you got to walk the framework. You've got to walk the journeys, walk the days, 2.5 weeks to actually Christmas Day. We'll say from this point, what is it that you need to do each day? Or is there you're just going to wait and just hope to heck it all falls together? If you're planning a big dinner, if you're planning where you're going to drive to meet up with family or friend members, what's going to happen? There is a journey to this. What days are you going to go out and buy your presents if you're buying presents? There's 110 things that you can look at in relation to time. I'm just going to suggest, if you're really busy, that you, in your mind, you can write it down if it's easier, make a schedule. That today you're going to visit this store or that one other day you're going to go there, because we've got some weekends here and probably late night shopping in many areas too. to go to the stores to do what you want to do. So have it planned out. Just don't go, oh, well, I'll see what happens. Sort of have a plan. And then you begin to execute that plan and work that plan and feel, what you're going to do is feel much more in command and much easier. There won't be the tension that comes up. A lot of Christmases get, I was going to say ruined, but it's probably a little bit more than it needs to be because of the tension that builds up. I remember having to buy everything, having to figure everything out, having to then cook the meal. Then it's all of a sudden this meal that you sweat over, then it's devoured and eaten. And then, well, I had my kids pretty well trained, to help out. But it's like then everyone was so full, they didn't want to do dishes. They didn't want to clean the table. So guess, very often that left to other people. So it's kind of about also negotiating how you're going to work. So when you come out of that day, that you feel all right. I used to be exhausted. And we used to have another day, then I'd be back at work again. So it's like really managing your time. It's called time management in lots of places. And that helped me later on when I was really organizing. I'm thinking of when the kids were little and just working and everything else. Now, sometimes people cooperate perhaps a little bit more than what I had in those days too. Cooperation. But so you've got the awareness of what you're going to do. You have an idea of what kind of presents you're going to buy or gifts, I think is another word we can use for that. And so you know what you're looking for. You know where you're going to go looking for. You're not going to try and do it all in one day. You're going to take time. So you've got a plan happening. Because when you come out of this time period, you're going to feel refreshed and easy. And it was like, oh, that was a joy. And that is because you figured out your plan as you work. And planning isn't always something that we talk about or where we're going to go or what we're going to do, because we want to make it beneficial for everybody, not just the person that does all the work. And unfortunately, not always, I have to be fair here, not always, but that often turns to the mother of the family or the main person in the family. And if it's not distributed, some families, lucky they're big and they distribute the what could you call it, the jobs. And that makes that easier for those days. But very often, if the family is smallish, then what you've got is one person basically picking up everything. And that's what happened in my life, because my husband, when our children were little, didn't really have a big family at all. And very often it was just us. And so guess what? You're the one that does everything, the mother. So it becomes tiresome for people and hard for people if they don't have a plan. And a lot of people don't know how to plan. They're not trained how to plan. I was never trained. It was something I learned. And I think it's part of the way, I think I just learned it because it made it more expedient, made it much easier. But there is some downfalls too. Very often, what happens when you're the planner, you have a little bit more power. I'm going to talk about power here. It's your creation, you're doing it. And then very often as the kids grow up or they have their ideas of how it could be, what happens sometimes, not always, but sometimes what happens is you begin to get a little territorial about your plan and what you do and how you do it. And so you can begin to move into reaction. You can begin to get a little bit angry or a little bit upset because you want to do it this way and somebody else wants to do it that way. Or somebody comes along and says, oh, well, why don't you just all come to my place? It'll be easier, which in one way it is, but it's like letting go. So part of this whole Christmas pressure that goes on, I think can be alleviated if it's planned. And also if you're willing to give up an element of power, that it's not all about what you do and how you do it, because that's very often what we want. And to recognize it's better to start planning earlier. And I'm a little late, 2.5 weeks. I used to start planning probably from January 10th the year and the whole year. But it's like knowing what it is that you're wanting to create. What is the end goal? Walking step by step towards that. I had a drawer in my that presents would get put in there through the year. I would see something, go, oh, so and so would like that, and I would put it in. I still have a box sitting in my bedroom, actually, when I moved into here, of presents that I bought. Somebody thought that I was re-gifting because I had on it gifts, and one of the gals that was helping me, and I know to this day still thinks that I was re-gifting. These were brand new presents that I bought as I traveled. I just hadn't given them to anybody. And I was thinking this year, I got to dig into that and see where I can put those. I don't need that box sitting there anymore. So planning, thinking, figuring. I was fortunate. I got to travel in lots of places, and I would see unusual things, and I liked them. And I would think about, who might like this? So what am I really saying today is you've got 2.5 weeks. And if you haven't started organizing, begin to organize. If you have a family, if you're planning a meal, if you're figuring out where you're going to go and what you're going to do, how does it work? If you're by yourself, is there somebody you can attach yourself to? Is there somebody that would be happy to have you in there so you can feel a sense of community? I'm big on community because many stations, especially as you get older, as I am, you don't have family close. You don't have other people that maybe you spend a lot of time with. So it's like having creating your own community so that you don't feel alone. Now, I have spent Christmases by myself, and I'm actually, on the whole, quite comfortable with it. I have a book, I watch a special movie, I plan for, but again, the planning again, I'll plan for that. So it's really about where you're going and where you're coming from. What are you going to do? Now, there's one aspect that I touched on already, but I really want to make sure that I talk about. This is that all. Emotions run high at this time of the year. It's in the air. You go into the malls, they're crowded. People are rushing. People are feeling pressure, a pressure to be in a specific time. By the way, Christmas was really designed of celebration, and it represents a birth. And just aside, I am doing my Christmas story on the 20th, which is 2 weeks from today. I've been rewriting it a little bit from the last time, adding a few things, taking some things out. But it's one of the delights I like doing. So it's something I'm doing for me. This is my Christmas present to myself, is to tell this story that I wrote actually in 2000. This one I wrote in 2018. I wrote my first one in 2005, but this is sort of a rehashing of my 2018 story, being updated a little bit. So it's like doing what you need to do and figuring out time and space, but don't go into taking on the pressure from the outside. Now I'm going to talk about energy for a moment. You go into a mall or a shop that's got a lot of people. There's a lot of energy. Remember, you have an aura. I haven't talked about auras too much for a while, but your energy field, if you can, bring it in closer to you. And that means bringing it in, allowing it to go down through your feet into the earth. So maybe bring it into about 18 inches maximum, not way out. A lot of people think that makes them stronger. It actually makes you weaker because there's more space for other people's energy to come in. And when that occurs, that's when you begin to feel irritable or reactive. And very often around Christmas time, and I've run into this before, people say they get angry, they don't know why, they go into a store feeling good, they come out feeling irritable. That is because your aura is way, way too big. And you're picking up other people's irritation or anger or frustration. And so you take it on, and then it creeps into you. And then you start picking on little things that normally you would just ignore. So this is something to be very, very cautious about in these next couple of weeks when you're out looking for a present or just out doing your daily shopping, what you have to do. Try and get all that done when there's not crowds of people and last minute shopping. Get it done. Plan. This is about planning and being aware of where exactly you stand and where exactly it all is. That's so important. And stay calm. Know that you're with where you are, who you are, how it works. And so you keep your eye on the prize. What are you doing? What are you creating? How do you want this to go? How do you want this to be? All of this makes a huge difference for this time of the year. What I don't want to hear, or I don't want anybody to feel, because that's happened to me in my early years before I really became aware of the auric energy, is how important it was to have it close to you. So important it is for you to be contained so that you're not in reaction. You're not taking on other people's stuff. You're not being whoever is more powerful energetically. Because this is an issue that often is not addressed in this time of the year. This is probably one of the most, I was going to say complicated, but that's not really the truth, more compounding. If you're living in the north, as I am, my family in New Zealand are running into nice weather, sunshine, a lot more relaxed. Here, it's getting colder, and there's some snow already. Predictions of more snow, icy roads, all of this, which is very much a part of us. That adds to the tension. That adds if you're going to be driving from point A to point B. I remember one Christmas where we were going to somebody's place and it was really bad and we had to cancel. We had to say we can't come because where we lived was on a hill, and to get up the hill, we couldn't do it. I remember one Christmas and another time where I lived, I had a very steep road, and I had a nice big T-bird in those days. And I couldn't get my car out. And my daughter, who had a little four-wheel drive thing, had to come down. And at the top of the roadway, I walked out with my winter boots on and my winter coat on up the driveway, which my car would not take, even with snow tires, to get into her little, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It was just a tiny little thing that was four-wheel drive. And we buzzed around, and her being liking fun, she took me down all sorts of roads and slipped and slid, and as we went back to her place to celebrate Christmas. That was a nice memory. Actually, it was a fun one. But that's what happens at this time of the year. Many people live where there's snow, ice, and you can't always go. Yeah, not everyone has a daughter with a little four-wheel drive that will come and save you because you can't get your car up the driveway. Life is full of fun and laughter if you can have a sense of humor. I really want you to create your sense of humor if you don't have one for this time period of the year. Those 2 weeks between Christmas and then again New Year, which happens a week later, is that there's so much tension that goes on. And so it's like learn how to navigate it in a very easy way by planning what you are going to be doing and what you plan on doing, if you have a plan or not, or going to sit home, watch TV or read a book or do whatever you're going to choose to do and let the world carry on around you. I know that for me, it's an interesting time of the year. It's an interesting time of how things happen. And I also know that there's a lot of spirituality that can happen around that time, because not only in the Christian religion, but also in other religions, very often they have particular ceremonies and gatherings. And then it seems like Christmas has become not so much Christmas, but more like a gathering time to celebrate light. Because I don't know about your area, but in my area, there's some beautiful, beautiful lights. And I'm not usually out driving in the dark, but I do go out, and I will probably be going out in this next week to look at lights. I just find they're so beautiful. And some of them already, when I've been coming home, because we're dark here now at 4 o'clock. Well, dusky, and then by 4:30 it's quite dark, and I'm coming home from somewhere, and already some beautiful, beautiful lights are happening. So I trust that you plan, so it's easier. I also trust that we have one more week before the 20th, and I will be back to speak then. But I'm looking forward to. I'm really working on this talk for the 20th. That's my delight. That's what I like doing. And secondly, because mostly I just speak, right? I don't really read things too often. But the other thing is that, from today, there'll be Sunday Thought, and then the next Monday will be Mental Mind Treatment. So I just want to thank again the people who are subscribing, the new people. Welcome. Trust you keep on enjoying. I love your comments that you're writing and sending me. By the way, many people say, how can we get in touch with you? One of the best ways is just go to the website, normacowie.com. It has a page there where you can email me, and I can get whatever it is you're wanting to ask that way as well. So you take care, enjoy, have fun, plan, and I will see you shortly. But before I go, I have Maggie G says, good morning, Norma, blessings. I want to say thank you on the chat line because I'm over and out for this week. Wednesday talks? No, Norma talks on Wednesdays. I'm losing it here. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.